Samuel. It's a pleasure for me to take part with you in this very important event. My participation will be in a very important field, which is risk analysis foundation for robust regulatory decision. The aim of my presentation is to highlight and to show you the importance of risk analysis process as a fundamental tool in the intergovernmental of food regulatory system dedicated to food safety. During the presentation, I will answer to some important questions related to risk analysis process, like why is it important today to talk about a risk analysis, and what are the components and logical steps of this approach, and also how can it be applied to improve the regulatory systems. After that, I will share the experience of Morocco in the implementation of a risk analysis framework in a food safety system. Now let's talk about risks. As you know, throughout the years, the world is changing fast, and actually food safety is beginning to be very complicated. In our daily life, we are also facing many risks. This situation is related to many factors and challenges which impact consumer safety, such as changes in our food production and supply, including more imported foods, and the globalization of food trade, which can bring new challenges and risks to food control. For example, a single source of contamination may become widespread with global consequences for all the countries concerned. Also, we have the changes in consumer preferences and habits, and in food production and processing, and emergence of new technology like genetic engineering and nanotechnology, for example, and also the change in animal food production and animal husbandry practices. Regarding all these challenges, we can expect an emergence of foodborne disease linked to new pathogens or chemical contaminants observed in different steps of food chain production. In time of increasing concern on food safety, when crisis happened, a debate on the stringency of intervention of competent authority is sometimes blamed as one of the causes contributing to foodborne disease. This debate was present in many crises faced before, and you can remember the case of dioxin, melamine, which happened in 2007, and also bovine spongiform encephalopathy happened in 1986. When the crisis happened, the competent authority has the same question about the event. For example, do we know the issue? Is the source known? Do we have enough information to get a clear idea of the situation? Are the measures effective? And do we have the right approach for the situation in question? Is our assessment correct? Do we have adequate measures and sufficient capacity, for diagnosis or laboratory capacity? The debate increased attention in the risk analysis framework, which can give the answers of all of these questions and more. And now let's talk about a risk analysis framework. Risk analysis is a structured approach comprising three distinct but closely linked components. As Professor Chen said, it's a very important process. Each component plays an essential and complementary role in the risk analysis. It's considered as a pillar supporting the food safety system and integrates its other fundamental foundations, which are functioning institutions, scientific capacity, and legislative and the regulatory framework. And we don't have to forget the need of robust governance and the implication of all partners which represent the key and element needed to intend food safety. The concept of risk analysis is in the food safety system is needed to assess, manage, and communicate risk for proper implementation of food safety policies, food laws, and standards in a country. Now, food safety controls are now beginning replaced by risk-based controls in all stages of food production. For the first component, which is the risk assessment, is a science-based process that includes the following steps: hazard identification, hazard characterization, exposure assessment, and risk characterizations. It should be based on all available scientific evidence and information on development products and new technology, environmental, cultural factors, etc., which is gathered and analyzed according to scientific principles of objectivity, transparency, and independence of scientific expertise. The second component, which is risk management, is the step where competent authorities have to establish and to implement a strategy plan to prevent or to mitigate the risk, and also to control the observance of policy measures and food laws. The implementation of risk management decisions at the national level should be supported by the risk assessment needed to provide a scientific argument and to guide decision-making in the area of regulatory food safety. The third component, risk communication, is very important and is considered as a cement of the process. Effective communication and consultation with all interested parties should be ensured throughout the risk analysis. It can be used to enhance the exchange of the information and to let all the actors involved to work together. The objective of risk analysis is to apply to food safety is to ensure human health protection. In order to perform successful risk analysis, a country needs to have a well-functioning and integrated food safety system. The support and the participation of key stakeholders also, like governments, industry, academia, consumer, and the basic knowledge about the three main components of risk analysis. The principles and methodology of risk analysis was developed by the international organization in different fields, like animal health, plant protection, and food safety. Multiple guidelines are available and can be used by the national government, like guidance developed by Codex Alimentarius Commission, FAO, WHO, and the OIE, and also IPPC. Risk analysis wants to be a dynamic process. I remember the terms used by Professor Samuel the first day of the conference, using the qualification of life circle dynamic process. It expresses perfectly the concept and how it can be implemented to allow a constant adjustment of the regulatory measures, taking into account the new information provided during the implementation of the process, and especially when we have a new scientific evidence. Here I present to you an example of one of regulatory decision-making where we can see clearly the interactive and the dynamic process in risk analysis. This example is represented by the monitoring and control plan implemented in the food safety system. For example, risk assessment is requested by the managers to orient the establishment of inspection program and for a regulatory threshold and monitoring and control plans according to risk approach, allowing the prioritization of hazard and matrix pairs by using, for example, targeting criteria, and also to identify the population at risk. That ensure the effectiveness and efficiency of control strategies. Risk assessments can also be used for the adaptation and evolution of these management programs, depending on the changes occurring in the sanitary environment and when new data are available. On the other hand, the managers, by providing data related to analytic results of the monitoring and control plan, can supply a risk assessment, making all the process dynamic. And we can say that the interaction between risk managers and risk assessors is very essential for practical application of risk analysis. Now, what about Moroccan experience? ONSSA, which is the competent authority involved to ensure food safety in Morocco, faced the same challenges as I mentioned in the beginning of my presentation, and especially the multiplicity of sanitary and phytosanitary hazards and risks linked to the globalization of trade and the changes in productive systems and manufacturing. Also, the changes of consumption habits and increasing food-related hazard, and especially for the novel foods. And the very important one is the gaps and the lack of data, especially occurrence data and consumption data. In compliance with the best practices and the implementation of the risk analysis process, ONSSA has made a restructuration of its national organization and create a new entity responsible for risk assessment, separate from management entity. Its mission is to argue and justify regulatory measures taken by ONSSA according to the scientific basis, and also to improve the decision-making process by adopting the principles of objectivity, transparency, and independence of scientific expertise. It also to identify the level of risk along the production chain and to drive studies, survey, and investigation to provide these data needed to conduct risk assessment. The aim is to integrate the risk approach at different steps of the decision-making process at all steps of the food chain. In order to face the main challenges and to strengthen the implementation of risk analysis framework in the food regulatory system, ONSSA tried to develop opportunities such as develop an interactive mechanism with key partners for sharing and transmitting the information needed for timely risk monitoring, to develop an efficient and responsive information system that integrates all sanitary and phytosanitary risk, and to strengthen the competences of ONSSA in risk assessment and scientific expertise in the field of food safety. I hope that I answered all the questions that I mentioned in the outline, and thank you for your attention.